She found him staring at their sleeping daughter through the monitor screen. A man who controlled the most dangerous empire in Seoul, yet whose hands still trembled slightly. Their dangerous love had bought them peace, but Soraya knew the instant Hui's finger traced the tiny scar on his neck. They had only paid the first installment. The penthouse was silent, a vast, soundproofed haven of dark wood and cool granite, yet Soraya moved through it with the muted alertness of a sentry. It had been over a year since the confrontation that had almost destroyed them. The diamond bracelet was still on her wrist, but now it felt like a cuff worn by a queen, not a prisoner. They had won their peace, raising their twins, Alara and Ji-hoon, in an uneasy truce with the world Hui commanded. She found Hui not in his study, surrounded by monitors, but outside the nursery. He wasn't watching the children through the glass. He was staring intently at the high-definition baby monitor display, specifically at the rhythmic, shallow rise and fall of Alara's tiny chest. "They're fine, Jagia," Soraya murmured, coming up behind him, her voice low. She wrapped her arms around his waist, resting her cheek against the silk of his robe. The physical intimacy was real now, earned through blood and shared trauma, but the tension in his shoulders was always present. "I know," Hui replied, his voice barely a rasp. "But I need to see it, every 2 hours." She gently reached up and touched the small, intricate snake tattoo that curled near his jugular, a signifier of his most ruthless loyalty. "The perimeter is locked down. Young-sik checked the air filtration 10 minutes ago. No one can touch them here. We won, Hui." He turned in her arms, his dark eyes intense, pulling her closer until the warmth of her body pressed against his cold tension. "Did we, Soraya, or did the enemy simply retreat to a stronger position? The SEO clan was external, loud. The new threat, it's quiet. It knows my routine. It calls me brother while plotting to inherit my empire." Hui still struggled to trust his own men after Tae-jin's betrayal, a flaw that made him hyper-vigilant. He was terrified of a weakness he couldn't see. "It's exhaustion, not an enemy," Soraya insisted, though she felt the familiar knot of dread tighten. "You're trying to control the uncontrollable. Parenthood." He didn't deny it. Instead, he kissed her, a raw, demanding gesture that spoke of fear, possession, and gratitude all at once. It was a language he excelled at. "You give me peace. The twins give me purpose. But the new security chief, Do-yun, I don't trust the way he looks at you when you hold Ji-hoon." Soraya stiffened slightly. Do-yun was a young, seemingly loyal man Hui had promoted quickly. She dismissed the paranoia. He respects his boss's wife. "Respect is cheap in my world," Hui countered, pulling her deeper into his embrace. "I need your focus, Soraya. The danger is coming. We only have this small time of, quiet." She kissed him back, letting the fear recede into the heat of their connection. If you believe Hui's paranoia is valid, or if Soraya is right about his exhaustion, tell us in the comments. Subscribe to see if they can ever truly find peace. The intimacy of the morning had momentarily calmed Hui, but Soraya felt the residual dread. She went into the nursery, breathing in the scent of powder and baby blankets. Ji-hoon was just waking up, a bright, gurgling contrast to the darkness outside their window. As she reached into the crib, her fingers brushed against something cold and foreign, tucked deep inside the plush animal toy Ji-hoon favored. It was a smooth, metallic chip, smaller than a pinky nail. It wasn't just metal. It was a sophisticated, high-end surveillance chip, the kind only Hui's top intelligence division used. A wave of icy shock hit Soraya. This wasn't an accident. This was a direct, intimate breach, a physical claim on her child. She marched directly to Hui's study, the chip clutched in her fist. Hui was on a secure video call, his voice sharp and ruthless, demanding accountability for a minor logistics failure. She waited until the screen went dark. This was in Ji-hoon's crib, she stated, dropping the chip onto his obsidian desk. Hui picked it up, his granite mask cracking only for an instant of pure predatory fury. His voice, however, was terrifyingly calm. A tracking device. It was activated an hour ago. It was put there by someone in your inner circle, Soraya pressed, her own voice shaking with maternal rage. Someone who had access after we left this room. Your security chief, Do Yun, was the last to run checks. Hui leaned back, his eyes narrowing. Do Yun is loyal. He saved my father's life 3 years ago. This is a common surveillance tool. It could have been dropped during a perimeter sweep. He refused to believe his system had failed. It was inside the toy, Hui. That's not a mistake. That's a message saying, I can reach your son's heart faster than you can reach my face. You are looking for a bullet from the outside, but the poison is already in the cup you drink from. Soraya hissed, her fury making her fearless. Hui stood, his towering height menacing, but his eyes were filled with the old, familiar terror of losing Hana. Then we lock the world out. I will move the children to the sub-level 3 bunker. You will stay with them. I will find the rat and bleed him dry. Soraya met his gaze, refusing to back down. No, locking us away proves the threat worked. You need to pull the traitor out into the light, and for that, you need me by your side. Is Hui too blind to his own weakness? Who is the traitor if it's not Do Yun? Hui spent the next day planning a power move, securing a vital alliance with the Japanese Yakuza at a highly exclusive public gala, an event meant to solidify his external strength. You will not be attending the gala, Soraya. Hui stated later that evening, his tone absolute. The risks are too high with this threat active. You want to show strength? You show unity, Soraya countered, stepping closer. Your rivals fear a single man. They terrify a man who has a fierce woman beside him, a woman who is the mother of his heirs. If I stay hidden, you look weak, Hui. Like you're hiding your prize. She waited for the cold resistance, but instead, Hui's intense gaze softened, moving from her face to her abdomen, where the pregnancy had given her a new, powerful grace. He sighed, the sound heavy with defeat, and finally agreed. You come, but you will not leave my side, not for a second. You will be my shadow and my shield. The next morning, the resistance continued, but on a different front. Soraya was trying on dresses for the gala, feeling the constraint of his security team stationed outside the door. Hui entered and dismissed the team with a sharp gesture. He walked over, his eyes traveling over her deep green silk gown. He reached out, not to zip the dress, but to secure a necklace around her throat. It was a pendant, heavy, solid gold, shaped like a miniature Korean battle shield. My family crest, he whispered, his hands lingering on her neck. My mother gave this to me when I took the throne. It means absolute, unyielding defense. I wear it for you now. He pressed a soft, sudden kiss to the curve of her neck, a public display of vulnerability that sent shivers through her. When you wear this, I am telling the entire world, my queen is my strength. Hurt her, and you shatter my kingdom. Then, as his lips trailed down to her shoulder, he whispered one more thing, a private code that only she would understand. I've placed a secondary tracker on you, not to control you, but to find you if my primary systems fail. It's inside the shield. If I fall, take the twins and disappear. Soraya felt the weight of the shield and the weight of his impossible choice. He was giving her the key to his empire's collapse just to ensure her survival. The move was so calculated, so romantic in its utter sacrifice that it left her speechless, ready to fight not just for her children, but for the broken king who finally learned to love by letting go of control. Is the shield actually a tracker? Is Hui genuinely sacrificing his power? Or is this another test? Why is he so focused on the children? Like and share to find out who the traitor is. The Grand Hotel ballroom was a blinding expanse of silk and crystal, filled with the hushed malice of Seoul's most powerful syndicate leaders and the representatives of the Japanese Yakuza. Soraya walked in on Hui's arm, wearing the deep green gown and the battle shield pendant. Every eye in the room pivoted to them, and Soraya could feel the cold, calculating scrutiny. She held her head high, acting the part of the powerful matriarch, not the fearful wife. Hui's hand rested on the small of her back, his touch no longer a command, but a tether. Constant, heavy, and reassuring. He smiled, a rare, sharp gesture that held no warmth, and led her directly into the viper's nest. They were immediately greeted by Do Yun, the young security chief, and Elder Kim, the syndicate's former treasurer, a man Hui respected deeply. While Hui discussed the Yakuza alliance with Elder Kim, Soraya used her perspective as an outsider to watch. Do Yun offered Soraya a respectful bow, but his eyes darted to the necklace. Mrs. Kang, the boss is wise to display his greatest asset so openly. The phrasing was subtle, but it jarred Soraya. Asset, not wife. She watched as Elder Kim nodded approvingly at Hui's plan, his expression genial. Then, as Hui detailed a critical security measure against outside threats, Elder Kim subconsciously performed a quick, nervous gesture. He tapped his right earlobe 3 times. Hui excused them to dance, pulling Soraya onto the floor. As their bodies moved together under the glittering chandelier, Hui pressed his mouth to her ear, his voice a low vibration against her skin. I feel eyes on us, Jagia, but I don't see the shooter. It's not a shooter, Soraya whispered back, her own heart pounding. It's Elder Kim. He's the traitor. Hui stilled, his grip tightening momentarily before relaxing into the dance. Impossible. He is my father's sworn brother. He tapped his earlobe 3 times when you mentioned the Yakuza deal. It's a communication signal, Soraya insisted. But that's not the clue. The clue is this. She subtly reached up and touched the shield pendant Hui had given her. He gave you the necklace code, Hui, the one that means absolute defense. Elder Kim wore the same symbol on a lapel pin, reversed when he greeted us. He's telling you, his defense is stronger than yours. Hui's eyes darkened, finally seeing the betrayal through her lens. He pulled her closer, his lips hovering over hers in a display of public devotion that was actually a private moment of pure strategic terror. He whispered the decision that would shatter their fragile life. You were right. The children are not safe. We hit him tonight. Is Elder Kim capable of kidnapping the twins? Why did he warn Hui with the necklace? Share your predictions in the comments, and subscribe to find out which twin is targeted. They didn't wait for the dance to end. Hui smoothly guided Soraya off the floor and, with a few clipped words to his head of security, vanished into a private elevator, the shield pendant flashing under the chandelier light. Back in the highest security safe room of the penthouse, the air was cold with calculated dread. Hui stripped off his jacket, the tattoos on his arms standing out in sharp relief. He was already planning the counterstrike, but Soraya demanded answers. Why Hui? Elder Kim has been with your family for 40 years. What could possibly turn him against your children? Hui ran a hand roughly over his head, the controlled exhaustion of the past year finally breaking.
Tracker in the shield.
My father warned me about him. Not about ambition, but about doctrine. Kim believes my syndicate must remain pure, racially and historically. He walked to the wall safe and retrieved a hidden antique leather ledger, his father's private notes. Kim always resented that my father married a woman outside the clan's core families. But when I married you, Soraya, a black woman, a foreigner, the mother of the next generation of leadership, Hui slammed the ledger shut, his jaw tight. He sees the twins not as my strength, but as a political corruption, a stain on the purity of the Kang legacy. The truth was a colder, sharper weapon than any gun. Soraya walked to him, her eyes burning with an anger far surpassing fear. He is attacking my children because of the color of their skin, and because I refuse to be invisible. He believes that by eliminating you and the mixed heirs, he can force the syndicate to elevate a pure successor and seize control. Hui confirmed, pulling her against his chest, holding her tight, a desperate plea for forgiveness in the gesture. I created this vulnerability. I brought this toxic legacy to your nursery door. Soraya didn't waste time on pity. She looked up at him, her hands pressing against his tattooed chest. No. You brought the love that shattered his small, prejudiced world. He can't forgive your happiness. This is not about power anymore, Hui. This is personal, and we will fight him on those terms. The knowledge of Kim's deep-seated prejudice hardened their resolve, transforming the conflict from a business coup into a righteous war for the identity and safety of their children. They were no longer just a mafia boss and his wife. They were unified parents fighting for their children's right to exist. Hours passed in frantic preparation. Hui had initiated a complex, multi-layered counter-strategy, moving troops, encrypting routes, and preparing an undeniable trap for Elder Kim. Yet, as the final plan locked into place, Hui collapsed onto the sofa, the physical exhaustion profound, the emotional toll heavier. Soraya sat beside him, gently tracing the dragon tattoo coiling down his forearm. The light in the safe room was soft, a temporary shelter from the darkness they were about to confront. The tactical side is done, Soraya murmured. But what about the emotional side? Are you ready to forgive yourself? Hui turned his head, his dark eyes filled with a raw vulnerability she rarely saw. I can face 100 men, Soraya, but I am terrified of looking at you and seeing contempt. You told me my love was a weapon. Now I know that Kim is attacking our children because of me, because of the world I brought you into. His voice broke slightly. If I fail to protect them, I don't care about the syndicate. I care about losing you. I care about Ji-hoon and Alara growing up without a father who learned how to trust. He pulled her hand to his lips and kissed her palm, a tender, desperate plea. You are the only person who ever looked at my darkness and demanded I turn on the light. If I lose you now, I lose my soul. Soraya's heart swelled with a powerful, protective love for the broken man beside her. She knew that beneath the mafia boss lay the terrified boy who lost his sister. You won't lose me, she promised, leaning in until their foreheads touched. You trusted me with the truth, Hui. You put the tracker on me, not to control me, but to keep me safe, even if you fell. That is not a weapon. That is love. We walk into this war together. You are the fire. I am the shield. No one, especially not a frightened, prejudiced old man, will take our peace. She initiated the kiss, deep and consuming. It wasn't gentle, it was passionate, fueled by the terrifying knowledge that this might be their last moment of quiet. They needed the intense, reaffirming physical connection to remind them of why they were fighting, for the passion, the trust, and the unique, dangerous life they had forged. In that moment, surrounded by maps and comms equipment, their bond solidified, ready to face the breaking point. The plan was perfect. Hui had prepared a meeting ostensibly to discuss Elder Kim's succession plan designed to trap the traitor. Yet, just as Hui was about to leave, the secure comm system in the safe room went dead. The light on his main server turned a solid, ominous red. He moved first, Hui stated, his face going cold. He immediately tried to manually override the comms, but the system was locked. The encryption codes were changed. He didn't just plan a coup, he locked me out of my own network. The sound of heavy, unauthorized footsteps echoed down the main corridor of the penthouse. Men Hui didn't recognize, mixed with familiar voices that had betrayed him.
Security is paramount.
Hui pulled out his sidearm.
Any mistakes. Everyone is
My primary security has been neutralized. They're surrounding the floor. The children, Soraya whispered, panic seizing her throat. She ran to the nursery door, Hui rushing after her. They burst into the nursery. Alara was sleeping peacefully in her crib, oblivious. But Ji-hoon's crib was empty. A small, intricately carved wooden crane, the same symbol Hui's sister Hana had worn, lay abandoned on the silk sheets. Hui let out a sound that was less human than a wounded animal's roar. He rushed to the crib, his powerful body shaking as he picked up the crane, the sight of the old symbol in the empty crib crushing him with the failure he had feared most. Suddenly, Hui's private secure phone, the one only used for emergency intel, pinged. It was a video message. Hui held the device with shaking hands, and Soraya leaned in close, their heads touching. The video showed Ji-hoon, swaddled and sleeping, held by a smug, victorious Elder Kim. A necessary sacrifice, Hui. Kim's voice was smooth, filled with sickening condescension. The Syndicate cannot stand on divided loyalties or mixed blood. We eliminate the weakness, and you submit. You lose the son, but you keep your life and your daughter. A fair price for purity, wouldn't you say? Hui crumpled to his knees, the phone dropping onto the carpet. His face was a mask of primal, devastating agony, the terror of losing his heir, the repeat of the Hana trauma, destroying him utterly.
He won't survive the night.
Soraya, though paralyzed by maternal grief, felt a white-hot wave of strategic rage. She knew this moment was designed to break Hui, to make him fight blindly and sacrifice himself. She grabbed the phone, her eyes dry and burning, filled with lethal purpose. He thinks he's won the war by taking the male heir, Soraya hissed, her mind already racing. He thinks he has broken the father, but he just activated the mother. Hui remained on his knees, paralyzed, the heavy wooden crane clutched in his hand. Elder Kim had won by exploiting the ghost of Hana. Soraya stepped over the dropped phone and took command. She knelt beside him, not for comfort, but for strategy. She placed her hands on his shoulders, forcing his gaze up. He took Ji-hoon to make you fight blind. He took your son to destroy your syndicate. He will not have your submission.
Terrified of failing us and losing your
My
trust.
systems are gone, Hui whispered, his voice hollow. My men are compromised. I have nothing left to fight with. You have me, Soraya said fiercely, and you gave me the key to his defeat. She reached up and touched the shield pendant around her neck, then reminded him of the hidden tracker. The shield, Hui. The signal is still active. Elder Kim thinks I am a vulnerable foreign liability. He thinks the mother of the mixed heirs is a distraction. We will use that prejudice against him. Hui stared at her, his eyes dark with the remnants of terror and grief. What is the plan, Soraya? I will burn the city down, but I need a target. Kim took the male heir to ensure his successor is pure, but he made one massive mistake, Soraya explained, her voice low and utterly strategic. He left Alara here. He left the remaining heir, the daughter, unguarded. He underestimated the mother. You are not bait, Hui snapped, the possessive instinct returning. No, Soraya countered, her grip tightening on his shoulders. I am the weapon. You will broadcast a signal, a calculated lie that you are fleeing with Alara to secure her safety with the Yakuza Alliance, and that I am going to the safe harbor alone to prepare her escape. Kim will believe the remaining heir is escaping his grasp. He will prioritize taking Alara and me over finishing you off. She pulled the shield pendant from her neck, handing it to Hui. You take Alara to the sub-level 3 bunker. I will use the secondary tracker to walk directly into his territory, alone. I will be the weakness he wants to eliminate. Hui took the shield, his large hand enveloping the pendant. He looked at the tracker, then at Soraya, the agony of trust warring with the absolute necessity of her plan. He was being asked to sacrifice his protective instinct and risk losing her forever. If you do this, there is no safety net, Hui stated, his voice hoarse. Our safety net is the trust you put in me at the gala, Soraya replied, meeting his gaze steadily. You told the world I was your shield. Now, trust your shield. After an agonizing silence, Hui finally nodded. He raised the shield pendant to his lips and kissed the gold, transferring the absolute command of his empire to her. You are my sovereign, Soraya. Go. Bring our son home. But if you do not return to me, I will flatten Seoul. Soraya's tracker signal led Hui to a remote coastal manor hidden among the mountains, Elder Kim's final redoubt. She had walked in alone, driven by maternal fury. Elder Kim, smug and triumphant, was waiting in a large, silent room where Ji-hoon slept, undisturbed in a makeshift crib. The wife of the king walks willingly into the hands of the new ruler. Kim sneered, delighted by his success. A necessary exchange, the elimination of the weakness. You eliminated nothing, Soraya countered, her voice steady. You exposed your own weakness, prejudice. You focused on my skin and my gender, Kim. You saw a foreigner. You didn't see the woman who helped her husband dismantle the Seo clan. You took the boy, but you left the shield. As she spoke, Hui's signal, broadcasted across the syndicate's emergency channels, blared through Kim's secure comms. Elder Kim has seized the air and is attempting to poison the next generation. Follow the shield's signal. Kim paled, realizing Hui had turned his own tracking device against him. You are bluffing. You have no troops here. You forgot that I carry the king's authority, Soraya stated. You feared Hui's power, but you never understood his love. And you certainly didn't fear mine. Before Kim could react, the manor's reinforced windows exploded inward. It wasn't an army, it was Hui and a specialized strike team, using the brief window Soraya provided. Hui moved with lethal efficiency, but his eyes never left Soraya. The confrontation was swift. As the last of Kim's loyalists fell, Hui rushed not to Kim, but to Soraya. He embraced her with crushing force, his lips burying themselves in her hair, breathing her in as if confirming her existence. You brought him home, he whispered, his voice thick with tears and relief. They walked to the crib together. Soraya gently lifted Ji-hoon, holding him tight. Hui followed suit, picking up Alara from the arriving security detail, the family finally whole. Later that night, back in the restored penthouse, Hui knelt before Soraya, Alara sleeping in her arms. He took the battle shield pendant and secured it back around her neck. You are not my asset, my shield, or my queen, Hui stated, his eyes dark with the depth of his earned love. You are my equal sovereign. You saw the weakness I was blind to, and you were willing to die to protect the purity of our lineage, the purity of us. The syndicate will now answer to both of us. Just as Soraya smiled, accepting his final surrender of control, the newly installed, encrypted main monitor flashed. A single message appeared, bypassing all known protocols. It was a symbol they had never seen, a coiled snake entwined around a silver globe. The accompanying text was brief, chilling, and written in flawless Russian. Your peace is an anomaly. The war is not over. It has simply gone international. Hui and Soraya exchanged a look of shared fear, parental rage, and absolute unified determination. Their war for love and family had just ascended to a global stage. A Russian rival? Who sent the message? Can Hui and Soraya fight a global war while protecting their children? Like, share, and subscribe so we can start episode 3, Global War for the Twins, or for Yearn.